Hey guys, and welcome to a new video. Today, Hexblast, Ignite, Battlemage, Inquisitor, Aegis, Aurora, Max Block, Armor Stacking, Viridius Veil, and 2 Magic Rings kind of build. And oh boy, I like this. This is actually really cool. So first, some storytelling, map game, gameplay, and then we're gonna talk about how all of this is actually working. So. Hexblast is one of the builds that I tried to make work since a couple of leagues already, and I never actually got to play it. Most of the time it's just like because I wasted all my currency in trying to fuse an ivory tower. Because I was like, I think 2 leagues ago or 3 leagues ago when this got actually released, I had my league start, I think it was like Bleed Bow, then I sold everything, I had like 25x on my stash after the first week, and then I was like, yo, let's try out Hexblast. And yeah, after 20x later and the destroyed Ivory Tower, I said like, yo, this is not gonna work out, let's try it another time, but I didn't play it again in the same league. The league afterwards, it was literally the same. I tried to link the Ivory Tower and I lost like 20-25x just in fusings, and I was so mad, I said like, yo, this build is just not gonna be played, you know? Then it was actually my league start last league, so I said like, this time around, we just league start Hexblast. But at Act 7, I think, we had this glorious idea, let's go Spectre Shield, throw Bleed instead. So it was like 3, actually I played it in a Gauntlet as well as a Pathfinder. The character didn't die, by the way, but it only reached like level 35, then I didn't bother anymore with playing the Gauntlet. But hey, 5th time is the charm, and this time I actually made it to mapping probably because it's not using an Ivory Tower. Maybe this is the reason, right? So, why Hexblast? So, basically, since the nerf of the exploded chest and all these kind of things, I did try a lot of builds with the Impulsor, but it doesn't really feel the same, I would say. And I was like, yo, what is the next best thing for clearing if it's not an exploded chest? And this is Acid Drain Contagion, any kind of Ignite proliferation, Poison proliferation, but in the end, it is proliferating. So I was like, yo, I want to play maybe an Ignite build with Proliferate because Ultimatum. Ultimatum is very hard. There is a lot of like really cruel monsters, especially once you get into high tier Awakener rate, than what I'm currently farming. You like randomly get one shot. It's really a pain, right? But I was like, yo, if I get off one nice Ignite, it will like spread towards the entire Ultimatum, and it will probably be pretty good. And there's one very meta build, I would say, would be the Burning Arrow Elementalist. But I kind of like to stick with my off-meta skills, and there's currently 0.2% of the player base that is listed on Path of Pew Ninja playing Hexblast. So I was like, this time, Hexblast, we're gonna make it. But there is one big difference. The PUBs that I made in the past for Hexblast was either a low life one with the Ivory Tower, both, I think as a Trickster, it was an Archmage build, so Archmage Ignite, or an agnostic life-based version. But I was like, yeah, I'm not so sure, I need to have a very tanky character. So I was doing quite some research, and I stumbled across a YouTube channel, which is this guy, Alloce. And it seems like this guy is an Aegis Aurora main, because almost every build that he plays, and he get like a lot of builds, and there's like really cool mechanics in there. And I actually found an Hexblast Battlemage Inquisitor, which is kind of the character that I'm currently trying to rebuild or replicate to learn more about the mechanics. So if you're wondering, yo mbX, and by the way, the link of this guy and the channel is in the description below, so you can check this one out. And if you're wondering, why the hell are you playing a Templar? You said you're not going to play Templar because the MTX looks shitty, which is true. But this time around, this is a Battlemage build, and Inquisitor is the only guy that has Battlemage active on his ascendancy, right? We're gonna talk later what Battlemage actually does, right? So, I am forced against my will to play the Templar, okay? But just to try this one out. So, I would say, do we just run a map showcase and see how it feels like at the moment, and then talk about the different mechanics, I would say? This build is quite tanky. I'm not yo, I haven't done this map yet, but it's a reflect map, right? Yo, I need to like progress here. Yeah, whatever. Boom. Looks good. Perfect. So, this character actually is quite tanky. It's a hybrid character, And what it makes so special, it is armor stacking. So armor stacking, physical damage mitigation, and the shield says replenishes energy shield 2% of armor when you block. And that's why we hybrid. And on a certain base, I think like in town or in hideout, I have like 8k armor bonus. I pop my flask and my molten shell, I'm like 33k. And that would basically mean if we go like 33,000 times 002, which is 2%, would be like 660 energy shield on block. And we also run the corrupted soul keystone, which got nerfed in this league, but still is definitely worth taking. So as an ignite build, your damage kinda is hefty on the cluster jewel side. So there is one node that is existing on large cluster jewels and on the medium cluster jewels, which is Burning Bright, which gives you lol harvest. Which gives you fire.multi, AoE, and all the good stuff, and this is like the best node, and they are quite pricey. But every Ignite build scales heavily with those kind of jewels. So we do have Ignite proliferation in our setup. That means all we're gonna do at the moment, this is a little bit a jinx setup, because you might think like, yo, for Hexblast, I actually need to curse enemies, because this is how Hexblast looks like if you don't have a curse on the enemy. It's just like a small little beam, more or less, right? But the thing is, with the, like usually it would be a 2-button build. In one hand, you're gonna curse the enemy, and then you're actually gonna Hexblast. But you can manipulate that a little bit if you're running the Solstice Vigil, so you get a free temp chains, and I'm using that one with Blasphemy, so I'm literally cursing enemies that are nearby, so I trigger the explosion. There is one important part to understand on the Hexblast mechanic. It is dealing more damage per Doom on a target. Remember when the all the curses and stuff got reworked, now they're adding Doom? That means Doom stacks up over time. It's like 10 Doom per second, and for every 5 Doom, our Hexblast deals 40% more damage with ailments. But therefore, you have to like self-curse with your Doom, so with your flammability, or with your curse basically. That means if I trigger that with a Blasphemy, they are not getting Doom. So all the damage you see here is without Doom. So I'm missing out on like over 400% more damage for ailments, but for mapping itself, it's just a 1-button build. So I just run next to a monster, they get cursed through the Blasphemy, I just press 1 button, Ignite proliferation goes off, and this is currently level 83, and how many deaths do I actually have? 4 times in total, which all 4 times was in the Ultimatum, but it was probably not the best idea to run T16 maps on Awakener 8 once I killed Kitaba. It was like literally the first maps that I run was like, yo, I need experience, I don't care about dying. But overall, I would say this build is quite tanky, and the last couple of ultimatums that I did was quite good. So for boss DPS, you're obviously gonna use flammability, and we are currently running 55 Doom, and 55 Doom would be divided by 5, since 40% more damage per 5 Doom, and wait, 55 divided by 5 and then multiplied by 40 is 440% more damage with ailments if I have if I curse it with the flammability. I just hope that I don't like kill myself here with the reflect. Okay, this guy should be dead. This holy shit. Okay, there was literally still 1 ignite to kill off the elite, or at least the boss over here. So I would say we're just gonna run, like, have we skipped the ultimatum? Actually, let's run another map. Let's go for Necropolis, Arc map, Burial Chamber, since I always get flamed for my weird pronunciation. So you have to think about, this is a tank build. That means that we are scaling block, we are scaling hybrid, and the thing with the 2 magic rings is because of the helmet, which gives us hexproof, like permanent hexproof. We are also not taking damage from critical, or not extra damage from critical strikes, and on top side, damage of enemies hitting you is unlucky, and this is because why we actually use 2 magic rings, because it gives you quite some defensive bonuses. As I say, for the mapping itself, it's just running around 1 button, and usually all even like rare packs on Awakener 8 are just dying, and I'm still missing out on like so much damage already. And I kind of feel, even though this is a tank build, I'm kind of having more damage than my previous builds that I played, especially referring to the cast on crit. So the fun thing is, I killed Veritania on Awakener 8 on level 73, I think. Because it literally was the last map I had to run to spawn a Conqueror, and I was like, yo, why not? Let's just go for it, right? And I actually killed her, and it was quite insane, actually. And that's without even cluster jewels in there. I'm not saying this is like an insane DPS build. It can get really insane, because I'm currently running like 1.5 million Ignite DPS. I think Alloce on his endgame version, where he reached level 100 with the build, has over 10 million Ignite DPS. And 10 million DPS on an Ignite, or how you say, on a dot build, is very, very impressive, with keeping the tankiness on top of that, right? This is like really, really cool. So I would say let's kill off, wow, Burial Chamber, like, sorry, Burial Chamber is probably the worst map I could have picked for, because I'm still running negative Chaos Res. But I would say, why not? Let's just kill the boss, and then we do the Ultimatum, so you see how that one looks like. And obviously the good thing with the Ignite proliferation, it leaves those red circles. Oh, Maven is here as well. Yeah, perfect. Perfect, perfect. Wait, yo, my boots have unaffected by desecrated ground. That's pretty good. But as you see, the boss damage is actually pretty good. I'm not gonna lie, it is pretty good. When I think about how much I struggled with my cast and crit build, and on like other builds that I played, like Blade Vortex and stuff like that, this is really, really good damage. Good, let's do the Ultimatum so you see how that looks like too. Clear speed, obviously really good. Yeah, Stormcaller runes, I hate it. And all you do is just a one button build, and for bosses you press 2 buttons, but therefore you are awarded with over 400% more damage, which is kind of ridiculous. Stormcaller runes again, because all the other stuff is a lot worse. I don't want to take Ruin anymore. Dude, I spawned the Trial Master, but there was a Ruin Ghost following me. On this build it wouldn't really matter too much, so we can actually take Ruin. But on the Cyclone build it was like very bad. Why is there no monsters spawning? Yikes. Usually, like, these ultimatums are, like, so overcrowded. I'm not sure if it's me just killing, like, shit tons of monsters all the time. Which can be, because I leave those fire circles on the ground, which is, like, pretty good. So monsters walk in there and they just die. But usually, when you talk about, like, defending, basically, the... Oh, screws. Defending the altar, right? The cool thing is you just pop your flammability in the middle, use one single Hexblast, and like literally all the rare packs get demolished by this very strong Ignite that we're gonna inflict. And it's really satisfying to play. It has a lot of good clear, and this is basically the main reason why I actually want to play a build like that. I want to farm Ultimatums. Ultimatums are very profitable. I had like countless of really good drops, like Coward's Trial, Cosprey's weapon, and it's like an Exalted Orb. It's like so many good things, so I don't want to skip out on the mechanic. But the issue is pretty much that the Ultimatum monsters are quite strong. You need a lot of tankiness. You cannot just one-shot the entire screen and then live with it, right? You need a very tanky build, and that's the reason why I really want to up my defensive game on these builds. And there we go. That was a tier 16 on Awakener 8, Ultimatum clear without any issues, and that is exactly what I want to have for my build. So let's talk a little bit about the mechanics. As I say again, quickly for the Hexblast mechanic itself, don't forget the skill gem says all damage can shock, ignite, and freeze basically, right? So all kind of elements involved here. This is basically the same as the Elementalist ascendancy, right? But if that wouldn't be there, you could still use a Stormfire Ring, but as I said, it has it built in. So the difference, how do you know if you have Doom, and when do you know you don't have Doom? And we're gonna respec the Doomsday, so I can explain that in the same hand here. As I said, this is without Doom, this is my Blasphemy Aura. So what does it look like if we have Doom? So I'm just gonna disable now my Temp Chains. So you're gonna see that one. So I'm casting my Flammability, it's loading up, it's loading up, it's loading up. And now when this one is blinking, we reached maximum Doom, okay? So basically, Flammability itself does have, or at least every kind of curse, has a total of 30 Doom, and it builds up 10 Doom per second. So that means I need 3 seconds to reach maximum Doom. But since I'm running the Anomalous Flammability that already has 5 extra Doom, plus an Enhance, plus level of Socketed Gems, gives me 15 additional Doom, which brings me to a total of 55, and that means 5.5 seconds to wait until we actually get to max Doom, which sucks. So imagine you popping Saurus. Saurus spawns, you cast that, and you're waiting 5.5 seconds until you can do damage, right? And therefore we have Doomsday. And Doomsday basically says, you don't get Doom when you cast your curse, but after 1 second you get maximum Doom. And this is exactly this weird circle that pops up. So that doesn't exist, this one pop-up circle here. It doesn't exist if you don't have Doomsday. But what it does, you cast it, and after it pops up, you have maximum Doom, which takes 1 second instead of 5.5 seconds to reach your maximum damage, which is like a lot better to play in the overall. And as I said, for the mapping itself, I have my Blasphemy temp chains for free through the Solstice Vigil. So all I need to do is just one button press and just chain proliferate, and it's a lot of fun to play, and it's very tanky, and I'm really happy that I found this video more or less to see how people are building their builds differently. And this is the next part I want to talk about. So I'm currently, with my setup, missing out on an entire large cluster jewel and normal jewels and stuff like that. No Watcher's Eye whatsoever. I'm currently on 1.7 million Ignite DPS. And the total damage of per Ignite is around about 10 million, so you should actually be able to one-tap bosses with your Ignite on Awakener 8, which is really, really cool to do. So another thing is this helmet. So this helmet drops from Maven. Currently, I think it's like 1 Exalt or something. 0, like half an Exalt, so they are dropping quite fast as more and more people are actually killing Maven. But what it says, damage on enemies hitting you is unlucky while you have a magic ring equipped. Then you're hex-proof, so you're a curse immune basically, if a magic ring in right slot, and you take no extra damage from critical strikes if you have a magic ring in your left slot. The easiest way to do this, just get a ring with like inflict ignites faster, and then you alt spam for T1 life, craft any suffix, and you're done. These are my endgame rings. I mean, catalysts and enchants and stuff like that still missing, but it's all currency, right? But that's it, you know, you're getting so much tankiness out of this helm, which is insane. And it also gives you +2 level of Socketed Gems, which gets my Enhanced to level 6, which gives me 40 quality, and I get 5 extra Doom per 20 quality, which gives it up to 15 quality. So just the Enhance alone will give me 10 Doom, which is 80% more damage for my Hexblast. It has an insane synergy. The next thing, the auras that we're running, is Determination, Vitality, Temp Chains, and Male Violence. So the thing with Determination, this is an armor stacking build. If you're wondering, yo, mbX, why do we actually run Inquisitor on this build? Like, all we need is on the top left side of the tree. So Inquisitor would work, maybe a Witch kind of character, or Marauder, maybe Chieftain could work also. But we have all the nodes that we need centered around the Templar area, while still maintaining element immunity through Pio's path. Then we also get this, enemies on consecrated ground take more damage, they take more elemental damage, which Ignite is, and we get Battle Mage on top of that. Battle Mage in a second. So, basically, we're stacking armor, so we get actually energy shield from blocking attacks, which is pretty nice. The rest of the items, like life resistance to start off, then you can get like an hunter boots with like Ignite faster, on the gloves, fire dot multi, whatever you can get. And then you basically down to your chest and your weapon, because the rest is like unique items, or even the magic rings that I just said. The chest is actually pretty good because we're scaling defense. So what is the defense? Defense is evasion, armor, and energy shield. We're a hybrid build. We scale energy shield, so this is good, and we scale armor. The more armor we get, the more physical damage mitigation, and the more energy shield we're gonna get back once we're blocking hits. So this has like a really good synergy. The best would be, I think, like +2 level of socketed AoE gems, maybe +1 level, +1 max resistance, some stuff like that. But as I say again, I actually opted in, so I changed the tree a little bit. I opted in the Unwavering Stance, so I cannot be stunned through the Unwavering Stance. I'm element immune through the Pious Path from the Inquisitor. Then I'm Hex, or at least Curse immune through my helmet. I'm crit immune, and the enemies have unlucky crit chance against me. And I'm max block with Glancing Blows, and I'm still missing out on some spell blocks, so I'm probably going to opt in some more, but I just need levels at this point, and the second Cluster Jewel to up my damage by like 2 or 3 times at this point, because the Cluster Jewels with Burning Bright and Blowback are quite insane. Good, let's talk about Battlemage real quick. What does Battlemage do? It basically, let me quickly open Craft of Exile so I can show you a good example. Scepter. So, basically what it does is your flat damage on your weapon will count for spell damage, or at least 2 spells. So if I say I have 7 to 213 lightning damage, this is 2 attacks, it's local. It now counts as 7 to 213 lightning damage to spells. And why is this actually important? Because let's take a look at the weightings here, or at least at the stats. Craft of Exile, we're gonna open some scepters over here, and let's search for lightning damage to spells, right? So we have lightning damage to spells. T1 is up to 133, while the T1 on the to attack is 300. So we are basically a T1 to attack is 300, and to spells is like 130. So basically that means that for attack I can get 3 times the value. So this one is currently T2, which is already a lot more than the T1 spell lightning damage to spells, basically, right? And the best weapon I think is like Fire.multi flat lightning damage, and I say this, flat lightning damage. It rolls a lot higher than the to spells, and we get Battlemage, so we get this as spell. Then increased fire damage, maybe damage over time, level of socket, level of all like chaos, guild gems and whatnot. Anything is fine, but I think the highest priority is Fire.multi and flat lightning damage, exactly what I have over here. I bought this one for 20 chaos. I think it was way too cheap because it's a double T2, but for price cost efficiency, it's really, really strong scepter over here. Good. One thing I still want to mention about ignites deal damage faster. So what does that mean? Basically, just as a very easy example, let's say I do 1000 ignite DPS and 5 seconds duration, which is basically, I think 4-second duration is the normal for ignites. But let's say this is my value. That would mean 1000 damage per second over 5 seconds. That means I have a total damage of 5000 damage. Okay, 1000 per second, 5 seconds duration. So what does the ignites deal damage faster do? Let's say I have like, I don't know, 25% ignite damage deal faster, whatnot. So basically what it means is it lowers the ignite duration, because the ignite will go through faster, but it higher the DPS. And there is a big difference between DPS and total damage done per ignite. So let's assume we have some of the ignite deal faster, and we now do 1250 ignite DPS on 4 seconds duration, which means total damage of 5000 damage. The total damage is still the same, but the damage per second goes up because the ignite duration goes lower, and we deal the same amount of ignite per second, the same amount of ignite total, but in a less duration. That ups my DPS. So don't worry, if you take more and more damage deal faster on ignite, your total damage will not change, but the DPS change. So why is this important? Like, obviously, let's say I do 5000 damage for 1 second, just to revert this, right? It's still the same damage, but I can apply a new ignite every 1 second. So that would mean I would have 25,000 damage done over 5 seconds. So basically, you can apply the ignites more often, and therefore, since they're not stacking unless you build for it, but therefore you can just opt in more ignites in the total amount of duration. So that means those two versions have a total damage ignite done the same, but If I say I fight the boss for 1 minute, is it like Saros or whatever, I'm gonna do way more damage with this one just because I can apply ignites way more often on that, right? And this actually shows over here. Don't get fooled by this, okay? Path of Building link is in the description below. Currently, my DPS is 1.7, but my total damage per ignite is like 9 point something. So I can actually say like, yo, if I have 831, 1, 2, 3, this is my total damage divided by the damage per second. Is basically my duration. So my, without checking, I should have an ignite duration of like 5.55 seconds, right? So let's go to calc. Where is my ignite? Let's see, Hexblast is somewhere here. 5.55 seconds, obviously. Because your total damage divided by the DPS, right? But that's what I mean. Don't get fooled if you check a build like, yo, you have 10 million DPS, what the fuck? No, it's not DPS, it's damage done. Important is the ignite DPS. That is what matters. And this is also the thing where a lot of poison builds are actually screwing up so hefty. You know, people see a poison build and they see on the left side like 100 million DPS or damage, right? And they think it's DPS, but it's not. What happens is that some or a lot of poison builds have like an insane duration, like poisons lasting for 17 seconds, especially once you're going assassin, where the more poisons you apply, the longer the duration and stuff like that, you know? Like, they have like 100 million damage, and then I go to calc and see that the poison duration is like 17 seconds, where I'm like thinking, in what kind of scenario are you hitting a boss for 17 seconds straight? Not even Saros, man, on last phase, you know? So this is just fake, you know? So always be aware of what is the DPS and what is the damage done. Whether it's ignite, whether it's poison or any other like damaging element or whatever bleed there is, okay? Good. Is there anything else to notice here on the early stage, I would say? Because this is like, as I said, I have a playtime of currently 13 hours. I leveled this character up yesterday. I just bought up some gear for like, I don't know, like round about an Exile. This is still from my Pathfinder. The magic rings don't really cost a lot. I think this one was like 50 chaos or 60 chaos because the implicits are not that good. It's just important that you check for 2 blue, 1 green, 1 red. The Veil, as we said, is like half an Exalt. The Aegis is currently 7 chaos. The weapon depends. I paid 20 chaos for mine. I think it was too cheap. The amulet is 10 chaos. And here I also want to mention Whispers of Doom. We allocate this one for the additional curse. It's not like that we need additional curse, but what happens if you don't have that is you have your blasphemy temp chains, right? And that means I cast flammability because I want to ramp up Doom and I want to set a big ignite there, right? Then the monster comes into my range and the blasphemy is applying temp chains, overriding the flammability, okay? So it's just a big quality of life to run the additional curse in one hand. Temp chains is a defensive mechanics, and I'm also able to stack up my Doom because Hexblast will always take the Hex with the highest Doom for the most damage. Another thing here, it's a non-crit build, it's LE Overload and LE Equilibrium, and you may think now, what does Elemental Equilibrium do, right? So think about, I hit with lightning damage, it gets negative cold and fire resistance, but increased lightning resistance, right? And we can manipulate that as long as our Hexblast is not dealing any fire damage, which is not. We see here physical damage, lightning damage, chaos damage, right? So if it hits with lightning and cold, for example, it will get lightning and cold resistance, but it loses fire resistance. But we're an ignite build. We want to let the enemy lose fire resistance. And that's why it's so good to have the lightning damage on your scepter. So my Hexblast does chaos and lightning. It gets the elemental equilibrium. It loses fire resistance. But hey, I'm actually an ignite build. That means all my damage is coming from ignite, and the monster gets a minus 50 fire resistance from that alone. Then from the flammability, the monster gets like minus 44 fire resistance. Then there is the exposure from our wave of conviction and stuff like that. It's like a lot of damage, and the more you invest into this character, the more ridiculous it will get. I think on this state that I have right now, I should be fairly fine killing Awakener 8 and just keep on grinding the currency and get more and more stuff. Really good jewels like Fire.multi, life, armor, and so on, and just get the damage to very ridiculous amounts while really staying as a main tank, which I think is in Ultimatum League a very good choice. And I think I'm gonna play around with more builds that is using the British Veil and double blue ring more or less with armor stacking Aegis Aurora. I think it's a very, very cool mechanic. And I think it brings characters to a quite interesting level of tankiness, and this is exactly what we need in Ultimatum League, to not fail your ultimatums in the map or as this weird currency that you can get. Alright guys, thanks for tuning in, thanks for watching. I need to grind some Saris now, getting some more currencies, and yeah, see you in the next video.